Hello and welcome. You're watching the Truth Report. Here are today's top stories. Nigeria's top security official warns that security operatives cannot protect everyone, urges citizens to take security into their own hands. A deadly mob attack in Edo State leaves 16 game hunters dead. What led to the killings and how authorities responded. Fresh attacks in Benue State force thousands from their homes. Residents demand urgent action as the crisis deepens. Nigeria's top intelligence official says the country's security forces are stretched too thin to protect every community from terrorist attacks. The Director General of Nigeria's Department of State Services, Adeola Oluwatosin Ajayi, urged citizens to take security into their own hands, saying self-defense is critical in fighting terrorism. Ajayi cited a 2021 attack in northern Nigeria's Bauchi State, where Boko Haram militants stormed a town shooting at civilians. Instead of waiting for the military, local residents fought back and killed the attackers. He claimed this resistance stopped further terrorist incursions and suggested other communities adopt similar tactics. The DSS chief also referenced former military ruler Ibrahim Babangida, who reportedly praised this approach, calling it a model for stopping terrorism. With Nigeria facing persistent kidnappings and extremist violence, Ajayi urged community leaders to organize local security efforts, arguing that government forces alone cannot prevent all attacks. And years of deadly attacks by armed groups have left many communities in southern Nigeria on edge. Fear and suspicion have fueled violent reprisals, sometimes with tragic consequences. That fear turned deadly in Edo State when 16 hunters traveling home were mistaken for kidnappers and killed by a mob. Our correspondent Ebere Inyema has more on the incident.
On March 27, 2025, a group of Muslim game hunters traveling from River State to Kano State was attacked in Uromi, Edo State. Local neighborhood watchmen stopped the truck they were riding in and discovered weapons, including locally made guns, axes, and machetes. Believing the men were kidnappers, the volunteer neighborhood watchmen detained the truck driver and another passenger, taking them to a police station. Before they could return, an angry mob set upon the remaining men, killing 16 and setting their bodies on fire. One of the survivors, Mustafa Al-Qasim, recounted the terrifying moments leading up to the attack. We were returning to Kano State to celebrate Salah, but when we got to Uromi in Edo State, we were stopped by the local vigilante. They asked us to come down, but when we refused, they tried to force us to come down, and we started an argument. But soon, we alighted from the truck. They searched the truck and found our guns and machetes. We tried to explain to them that we were game hunters, but they refused to let us go. They took the driver and one other person to the police station and told us to stay there until they got back. A crowd gathered, and sensing that we could be in danger, I ran away before they could catch me. Another survivor, identified as Haruna, claimed the group had legal permits for their weapons. They handcuffed me and the driver and took us to the police station. I tried to explain to them that those guns had licenses, but they wouldn't listen. When we got to the police station, they told the police that we were kidnappers, so the police detained us. The commander of the Edo State Security Corps, retired Commissioner of Police Friday Ibadi, confirmed that the local neighborhood watchmen, also called in Nigeria vigilantes, intercepted the travelers, leading to the violent mob attack.
The whole thing is totally condemnable by the state government, by everybody in Uromi. We also visited the Hausa community, where we met the head of the Hausa community in Uromi. And in fact, he also expressed his shock that this type of thing, he has lived in Uromi for so many years. Some of them have spent 70 years here. That this is not the attitude of an average Uromi person.
Security forces have since arrested 14 suspects, with additional arrests made by the Department of State Security in Uromi County. Authorities are still searching for others involved in the killings. Meanwhile, the killings have ignited tensions across Nigeria. Northern leaders are demanding justice, while Edo State officials have pledged a full investigation. Some extremists, however, have called for violent reprisals, urging attacks on churches in northern Nigeria on April 7, 2025. Security agencies have heightened surveillance to prevent further violence.
And the killing of 16 Hausa hunters in Edo State has reignited debates over violence and selective outrage in Nigeria. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and politician Rabiu Kwakwanso condemned the attack, calling for justice. But critics argue that similar massacres against Christian communities in Nigeria's Middle Belt have received little attention. The contrast is striking. In May 2022, a Christian student, Deborah Emmanuel, was lynched in Sokoto for alleged blasphemy. While her murder sparked international condemnation, Nigerian political leaders largely remained silent. Meanwhile, attacks by suspected Fulani militias in Kaduna, Benue and Plateau states have left thousands dead, yet there has been little government intervention. Between January 2023 and February 2024, more than 2,000 Christian farmers were killed in coordinated attacks. Many Nigerians on social media are pointing to a troubling pattern: swift reactions when northern communities are attacked, but silence when Christian villages are targeted. Tensions are rising further after a Kaduna police officer, Adina Hussaini Dantaki, made inflammatory remarks online threatening reprisals against Southerners over the Uromi attack. His comments have raised fears of retaliatory violence. Meanwhile, the Northern Elders Forum has issued a 14-day ultimatum demanding compensation and public trials for those responsible. But Southerners question why similar demands were never made when their communities came under attack. And deadly attacks on Christian communities in Nigeria are on the rise, yet church leaders remain largely silent. Entire villages have been wiped out, places of worship destroyed, and families displaced, often with little response from religious authorities. Human rights advocates warn that this lack of action has only fueled further violence. Without strong condemnation or pressure on the government, attackers continue to operate with impunity. The director of the International Human Rights Commission, David Oyuloko-Ida, says Christian leaders must take a stand. He believes that their silence has contributed to the growing crisis, allowing killings to persist unchecked.
Concerning the reaction of government to especially the mob justice that is meted out against Christians in northern Nigeria specifically, I will say categorically that I want to say that the government is largely to blame, but I also want to blame the Christian leaders in Nigeria specifically for their also inaction. When a community of people, let's say when a person finds out that he's afflicted by something, the burden is first and foremostly on that person, the afflicted, to take preventive or cautionary measures to prevent these things from happening. And the first basis of the measure to be taken regarding the issue of mob justice in Nigeria remains the education of the affected community of people. Things can be done to understand how mob justice happens and how to prevent those things from happening. A people can decide to become intelligent about a problem. The Christian community, especially in northern Nigeria, the Christian leaders have not led in the direction of this at all. There are no programs in the churches, there are no programs in the Christian communities to educate the young people in the Christian communities to say this and this is and these are the things you will find to be the instigators of this and this and this action. So because you now know, whenever you notice this and this and this beginning to happen, this is the necessary action you must take to prevent, to not end up taking the lives of anybody, and to let justice take its course. This is what you must do.
Now to Benue State, some residents of Benue in central Nigeria have been forced to flee their homes after a series of violent attacks by suspected armed herders in Otukpo County, specifically in Asa community. Reports say the area has been under siege for the past 4 days. The attacks have left several people dead and many others have been abducted. The violence has triggered widespread protests, with locals taking to the streets demanding an end to the constant killings and kidnappings. As the attacks continue, over 2 million internally displaced people, including women and children, are struggling to survive in Benue State. The situation has worsened following the suspension of U.S. aid, which has left many in severe poverty, unable to meet their basic needs. Well, for more insights into the crisis in Benue State, we turn to Melvin Eje, a resident and the chairman of Agatu County, who is also joining us right now from Benue. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Melvin. Now, in January 2025, reports claimed that Fulani and Agatu leaders signed another peace agreement. Now, the first agreement was signed in 2017. Now, has this improved security or attacks still ongoing?
Okay, we have not signed any peace agreement. Please quote me verbatim. We have not signed any peace agreement in Fulani anywhere under my watch. What we had was doing the unusual. Normally, the herders normally invade our communities. They invade our communities without permission. That's what they did last year. As soon as I got into office, I started what we call ADR. ADR is alternative dispute resolution, aimed at forestalling further crisis, just like we used to have before. Like that's why I've been in Tuma for 13 years. So what we had was, instead of going the route of fighting, instead of going the route of engaging in war, we decided to talk. And that talk process is still on up to this moment. We have not signed any agreement with the Fulani people. What we did was calling them to Agatua and say, look, you have come to our community even though uninvited. We are not going to attack you. Don't attack us, please. If you want to graze, there is an anti-grazing law in Benue State. Respect this anti-grazing law. Respect yourself to a particular area. Don't eat our farmer's farm, and do your business in peace. That was what we did. We never at any time signed peace agreement with Fulani. That time is not here. We're getting to a level where, of course, eventually one day we'll have sit down together and say, okay, let's begin to stay together. But we haven't gone to that level yet. Before, some of them were invited, some of these Fulanis were invited by some criminal Agatus who were benefiting from the spoil of war, who were benefiting from loot during this crisis, who were benefiting from several things. They invited them in. We never asked them to come. We never signed any peace agreement with them under my watch. Please quote me verbatim. Thank you.
Right, you've denied that a peace agreement was signed. Are Fulani-led attacks still happening?
Until this moment that I speak to you, since I came into office on October 9, 2024, no attack have happened in Agatu local government. Nobody has been killed in Agatu local government. No gun have been shot in Agatu local government. And this is the result of mediation and ADR that we've been using. There's no attack happening in Agatu local government. What we have now is the issue of destruction of crops in our farms and erosion of cattle by people. So what we have now is isolated incidences by criminal hoodlums from the both sides, from the Fulanis and from the Agatu side. We have people who do not want this peace. We have criminals who want to undermine the efforts of our government. No attack has happened from that time I came into office till now. Mind you, I'm restricting my answer to Agatu local government where I head sway, where I'm holding sway currently. I don't know whatever happened in my next local government. I don't know what happened in Benue State. I'm speaking for Agatu local government, and that's how I'm going to restrict myself throughout the period of this interview.
All right. Now, with over 2 million displaced persons in Benue and 5,000 in Agatu alone, why hasn't there been a stronger appeal for aid, especially after U.S. aid's withdrawal? Were IDPs actually receiving support, or was it being mismanaged?
Well, let me be very clear. Since I came on board, we have not actually called in international organization for help because there are procedures and protocols to do that. However, we have called our governor and the state management emergency agency that have been proactive. They have come to our aid at several times, and I'm sure they are planning something big for the Agatu local government, which I hold to currently. But I've not called you. You said I've not called any foreign donors to come and help us in solving our problem, because, like I said, there are protocols for that. And when that time comes, we are going to make the appropriate call. However, Agatu is in the dire need of humanitarian need. Agatu is in the dire need of help from international communities.
All right, now, Melvin Eje, the chairman of Agatu County, thank you so much for your time and your insight. Kidnappings are surging in southwest Nigeria, with Edo State residents warning that roads and farmlands are no longer safe. We'll have more on this and other top stories when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. A recap now of today's top stories. Nigeria's security chief warns that the military and police cannot protect everyone. Communities must take responsibility for their own defense. And 16 hunters were killed after being mistaken for kidnappers, sparking outrage and reigniting debate over violence and selective outrage in Nigeria. Nigeria's security crisis is spreading, and the latest hotspot is the country's southwest. In Edo State, fear is growing as kidnappings, violent attacks and targeted killings escalate. Once considered a safe region, Edo residents now face increasing threats from armed groups. Many communities are vulnerable, and government efforts to contain the crisis have been slow. With attacks spreading unchecked, the question remains: what happens if these violent groups are not stopped? In recent months, Edo State in southwestern Nigeria has become ground zero for a wave of kidnappings and killings. Farmers, students and even local officials are being targeted, but authorities seem to be doing little to address the crisis.
I've never imagined in my life that such a terrible comfort crime can be planned in Southwest. And it's a wake up to Southwest governor and Southwest leader that they must put every precaution to stop all this warrant attitude of these criminals that want to take over our land in Southwest.
In March alone, 5 farmers were brutally murdered, sparking widespread protests outside the governor's office. Just days later, students took to the streets, voicing their frustration over the government's failure to act as kidnappings continue to rise. What started as a security crisis in northern Nigeria has now spread to the southwest. Armed groups that once ravaged the northern forests of Zamfara and the farmlands of Benue are now targeting the once safe communities of Ondo and surrounding areas. The pattern is clear: these groups are expanding, and the government is struggling to stop them.
Actually, as a nation like this, we are supposed to have a strength of a military in millions, not in hundreds of thousands, millions. With sophisticated equipment, well armed, well trained. I know the Nigerian military is well trained, and I benefited from it. Like I said, is the willpower, but they still need to train more people. And you know the problem we still have in the system today. You say a repentant terrorist. You bring him out and come and put him in the military. Where is it done anywhere in the world?
Security experts warn that if the violence remains unchecked, Nigeria could be heading toward a full-blown crisis, with local communities forced to defend themselves in the absence of government protection. Tensions could escalate, potentially leading to widespread ethnic and religious conflicts. Well, for more insights into the growing security crisis in Ondo State, we're joined by Barrister Odushola Ilaje, a lawyer and resident of the region. Thank you for being here. Now, reports suggest a sharp increase in violent attacks and kidnappings in Ondo State. Now, can you give us a first-hand account of what's happening on the ground?
It actually happened, and it almost become an everyday thing. That's almost about, I think, around February, where the whole thing started. Though it has been like that for even during the regime of the last government, Akeredolu. I think that was why Amotekun was formed. And when Amotekun was formed, at least it curtailed the activities of the herdsmen, which we believe are majorly involved or behind the kidnapping incidents that we witnessed. So after the creation of Amotekun, the whole thing stopped for a long time. But resumed something around January, February this year, and it actually happened, and some people were kidnapped. It almost become an everyday thing. So that is the truth. It happened, and it also led to protests among the people living in those areas of Akure, where the thing was occurring almost on an everyday basis.
Now, in August 2024, protests were held by women in Ondo State, pleading with the government to take action. Now, despite their efforts, the violence seems to be escalated. Do you believe state officials fully grasp the severity of the crisis?
The thing is, because I'm not part of government, I may not say whether they are aware or not, but I can only say that when it happened, some of us were crying out on social media. Personally, myself, I had an experience where a man and two of his sons, who are teenagers, were kidnapped. I remember people started calling me because even it happened almost immediately after the incident of this Afenifere national youth leader, Eniola Jajuni, was kidnapped and released. And because of my involvement in ensuring that the guy was released by trying to raise money from people, people felt that I should be the next person to be called when such occasion arises. And so I got this call from somebody saying that a man, his father, and two sons were kidnapped. I tried my best to confirm, and I confirmed that it was real, that they were actually kidnapped. So I raised the issue on Facebook. So if you want, even if I want to say that government is not aware, I may not be totally correct. And if I say the government is also aware, I may not be totally correct. But if I remember that the whole thing was on social media, everybody was crying on social media. 10 people were kidnapped almost virtually the same day who were surveyors. And the news was all over the town. So will I say the government is not aware of such a situation? So I may not want to speak for the government, but the thing was it's not a private thing, it was in the public domain. Everybody, people were crying. Some girls were kidnapped for days and they were with the kidnappers. I can't say precisely that whether the government will say they are not aware of such thing for those information, because it's not a secret information. It was information that's everywhere in the state that 10 of years were kidnapped. Virtually around that time, specifically around that time, was when another person was reported being kidnapped by the same kidnapper. His father, who went to farm with his two sons, were also kidnapped. And ransom was collected from them. They collected about $5 million from them. So this is not a secret thing. It was a thing in the public domain, and it was being posted on Facebook by virtually everybody. So I may not say the government is not aware.
All right. Security forces are meant to protect citizens, but with all of these ongoing attacks, do you think there are enough personnel on the ground, or is their presence, proving ineffective?
Well, we all know it's a matter of general knowledge that the security system in Nigeria is so poor, very, very poor. Like somebody like me, I live in Otiwopa, and to drive from Otiwopa to Akure, you spend like 2 hours on the road driving. And I can tell you from those 2 hours drive that you're going to undertake, you you probably will see maybe just 1 or 2 roadblocks on the road. So when you look at the distance of this roadblock, even those people, those police men that you will see on the roadblock, with all due respect to them, you will discover that what they are doing was extorting money from motorists. They are not actually doing the right thing they should be doing. They were not checking, they are not checking anything. They are only there to extort the citizen of Ondo State. So what I want to say is that with that kind of situation, I cannot say that we have good security apparatus on ground. How can somebody travel for almost 2 hours? In this journey, you only see maybe 1 or 2 security checkpoints. So that is so poor. And even within the town, nobody is even securing the town. Unlike what we have in advanced country, where you move from one place to the other, you see a security vehicle parked in a place so that anytime they have a distress call, they can always be there on time. You won't find that anywhere in Ondo State. In Otupa, where I live, where will you find that one? You won't find them. That is so poor. We need more security apparatus to be put in place. I'm a thankful for them. They are really trying. I commend those guys. They are really trying, even when they don't have sophisticated weapon to challenge all these invaders. But they are trying their own little way. But I just believe that there's still a security lapse in Ondo State, because even it was after the kidnap happened, and the government had to wait until those people paid ransom to be released. Then there was a clash in which, from formation, the invaders, they killed about 5 people. It was after that killing that the security apparatus woke up from their slumber and started going into the bushes to chase the invaders. And the information we got was that some of them were arrested. But I see that one as what do I call it? As there should be preventive measure. It shouldn't be when things happened and went bad that security agencies will step in. As at time those people were kidnapped, those 10 surveyors and the people that I mentioned were kidnapped, if the security agency has stepped in, it won't have resulted in the killing that we witnessed thereafter within a week or 2 after that incident. So I want to believe that we still need to tighten up our security, recruit more security apparatus, because we have shortage of security apparatus in place. And without government looking at this issue of deficiencies of security apparatus, I think we'll still be seeing the occurrence of issues like this.
Now, for years, much of Nigeria's violence has been concentrated in the north, but now Ondo in the southwest is increasingly affected. How has this shift impacted daily life, especially for farmers, traders, and, residents?
Honestly, Nigerians, I don't know, I can say Nigerians are very hardworking people, and otherwise, with what we experience lately, if I'm a farmer, I won't go to farm again. No, we are talking about 5 lives, and they are farmers. The man that said was kidnapped with his 2 kids is also a farmer, and a man who went through that kind of experience, would you think the man would like to go to farm again, or his neighbor who understood what the man went through to raise 5 million naira, a peasant farmer? So actually, that thing generated a lot of fear. People were no longer trying to go to farm. Even when you want to go to Akure, when you are in Akure and you want to go to that particular area around airport where that incident was reoccurring, you have to be very, very vigilant. Nigerian, you can't sit in a place in Nigeria and expect yourself to feed yourself. So you still have to just keep on working, no matter what. So I think that is the determination of Nigeria. Otherwise, if it happens in some other places, people will vacate that particular area. But Nigeria, being what they are, being the hardworking people they are, they still keep on facing their normal business as if nothing happened. But as for farmers, I think that thing is still a kind of fear in them. And the little one we know about them, they said that we can't even go to our farm for now. But I think the Ondo State government was able to step into the matter. Thereafter, a protest was staged by people, and with that, I think the whole thing has been put under control for I can say for now. So I think farmer can. I don't know the security apparatus put in place to safeguard the farmer, because I never interfered with the farmer to know whether the government has put in some security apparatus to safeguard them while they are working their farms. But I know that the Amatekun, who I want to say has almost slept over their responsibility, they woke up when after that protest, and I believe that they are now on their feet as they used to be.
All right, Barrister Odushola Ilaje, we appreciate your time and insights. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, that's our bulletin for today. Thank you for watching. I am Mary Kanu. See you next time.